from the official television station of Illini Sports, this is the Your Illini Nation Kickoff Show.
Illinois football is back and the bar has been raised after an 8-win season. The biggest storyline coming into this year, Ole Miss transfer Luke Altmaier looking to lead the offense to take another step.
But last year's defense will be hard to replace. They're ranked #1 in the country in points allowed per game. A lot of pieces to replace, but the law firm of Johnny Newton and Keith Randolph is back.
And linebacker Kenenna Odeluga will be counted on in that defense a whole lot more this season. How a trip to Africa with 2 other Illini teammates changed their perspective and brought them closer together.
Illini Nation, your best line of defense. Yes, sir.
The Your Illini Nation Kickoff Show starts now.
Welcome to the Your Illini Nation Kickoff Show. Bret Beherns, Andy Olson, Brice Bement with you here for the next 30 minutes, getting you set for the season. Guys, it is almost here.
And Illinois has raised expectations after the best record in 15 years. Now the big question, can they follow it up?
Plenty to break down in our special dedicated entirely to Illini football, and the action starts just 48 hours from now with the season opener.
We are almost ready to talk this offseason all about sustaining success. The Illini have only had back-to-back winning seasons one other time since 1989-90. They're poised to do just that if they can build off their first January bowl game since the 2008 Rose Bowl, but a loss to Mississippi State in the ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa ended a 1-4 stretch to finish the season after winning 7 out of their first 8 games last year.
I feel like we're in a unique situation because winning them 7 games, it gave us confidence. Knowing like, okay, we can win. We can win games, but also losing them last few, it put a chip on our shoulder. So now we got like the best of both worlds. Like we got that confidence, but also we got that chip.
Winning 8 games will get you some love in the AP Top 25 preseason poll. The Illini receive votes. No surprises at the top, with 2-time defending national champion Georgia getting 60 out of 63 first-place votes. Michigan and Ohio State round out the top 3, followed by Alabama.
Several key players are gone, led by the team's 4 draft picks. Cornerback Devin Witherspoon selected 5th overall to the Seahawks. Quan Martin went in the 2nd round to the Commanders. Sidney Brown in the 3rd to the Eagles. His twin brother Chase in the 5th round to the Bengals. Overall, 12 guys from last year's team signed with an NFL team. But the Illini were able to retain several key players. Isaiah Adams and Danville's Julian Pearl both anchor the left side of the offensive line after wearing the option of turning pro. Isaiah Williams led the team in receptions. He's back as the go-to receiver. And the big ones, defensive linemen Johnny Newton and Keith Randolph Jr.
Known as the law firm, Johnny and Keith, the clear-cut leaders of the Illinois defense. The self-titled first line of defense is gaining plenty of attention, holding court at a lemonade stand this summer to benefit the Salvation Army through their NIL deal. The duo has been nominated for 5 preseason watch lists. Newton, the first AP preseason All-American in Illinois history. They're 2 of the most charismatic guys on the team as well. So we thought, what better way to show off that personality than handing them a mic at Team's Media Day.
3, 2, 1. What's up, WCIA? It's your guy here, Keith Randolph Jr., defensive lineman for the University of Illinois. Here you have the law firm of Newton Randolph, or the law firm of Randolph and Newton. Okay, enough football talk. There's this rumor going around. Basically, the rumor I heard was you wouldn't let me babysit little Jovi. Is this true or false?
Never heard that before.
So they're lying on you.
I'm just here so I don't give
Yeah, Illini Nation, your law firm's so excited to play, and for y'all to watch us this year, can't wait to see y'all. ILL.
Newton and Randolph always up for some fun. How about those smiles at the end?
You love to see it. One starter on the Illini defense who won't be in the game, though, at the beginning of the season, Matthew Bailey. The sophomore safety shined last season, making an immediate impact, but a lingering foot injury during the spring has kept him sidelined all fall. After a 3-interception true freshman season, Bailey will likely not play at least until the Penn State game. Bailey and the defensive backs have a new coach this year. Antonio Finellis taking over the secondary. Charlie Bolin takes over the outside linebackers, with Thad Ward coaching the running backs and Robbie Disher the tight ends and special teams coordinator this season.
There are several others in new roles this season, most notably Aaron Henry's promotion to defensive coordinator. He takes over the post for Ryan Walters, who left to become Purdue's head coach. Not only is this Henry's first time as DC, he's also a first-time father to twin girls. Harlow and Dakota were born at the end of July, just a few days before the start of training camp.
It's life-changing, dude. I got a whole new motivation and drive. You know, I thought I was a pretty motivated person, but I can't describe to you how excited I am. I can't describe to you how excited I am for this season, you know, because it'll be the first time that I'll be a defensive coordinator and a father.
Henry played for Bielema at Wisconsin, was a graduate assistant at Arkansas under him as well. A DB's coach for Illinois the past 2 seasons, and now, of course, Bielema's defensive coordinator.
Meanwhile, it's year 2 with the Illini for offensive coordinator Barry Lunney Jr., who says he's more comfortable a second time around and senses the same from his players. After improving the offense nearly 50 yards per game last season from the year prior, the second best jump in the Big Ten, Lunney is looking for even more.
Just the terminology, the situational anticipation, what the players expect from me and meetings and practice, like all that has grown in year 2 as it should have. And so I'm excited to take that, the off the field stuff, the off season stuff, and now let's let that come to life when we start our season here that we're looking forward to doing on Saturday.
Lunney returned 6 starters from last year's group.
Quarterback, the big question in the offseason, and who Illinois would land. Turns out it's Ole Miss transfer Luke Altmyer. The former 4-star recruit out of high school played in 9 games for the Rebels, making 1 start in his 2 years at Oxford. Now he's QB1 for the Orange and Blue and ready to make the most out of his opportunity to get on the field full time.
You know, I'm so thankful for my journey. I wouldn't trade it for the world, and I'm thankful God, put me in this place. But yeah, it's been a while, and ultimately, you come to college and you signed to, play college football to play. And, I played a little bit back where I was at, but I'm so thankful to be in this place here where, I think Coach B believes in me and these players believe in me. And, I'm passionate about this game. I love it. I love showing up every single day competing. And, I'm just looking forward to, lacing them up and strapping it up and, giving it all I have.
All right, if I had never seen you play, Luke, give me a synopsis of who Luke Altmyer is on the field. What do you bring?
Yeah, that's always a tough question to ask. I let other people perceive, how my play style and things like that. I go out there and do whatever it takes to win, whether that's with, my arm or the mobility God has, blessed me with. I'm just super passionate about this game. Whatever's asked of me, I'm going to go attack it. With excellence.
Altmyer named starter, not a big surprise. The real QB competition was for his backup. Ball State transfer John Paddock is QB2 after transferring as a walk-on. He competed with redshirt freshman Donovan Leary for that spot. Time for a first time out, but so much more to come.
We sit down with head coach Bret Bielema one-on-one as he gets ready to start his 3rd season.
Plus, a trip to Africa this summer was impactful in more ways than one for 3 Illini.
We think we have some hard stuff, and they have steps beyond that.
More on how Kenenna Odeluga, Tip Ryman, and Isaiah Williams spent time giving back and how it's helping them on the field this season.
The Your Illini Nation Kickoff Show continues now.
Welcome back to the Your Illini Nation Kickoff Special. And no Kickoff Special is special without being able to talk with the head man, Bret Bielema, who we're now sitting down with in this recruiting lounge. Take me through this area, what this is, why it's important to Illinois football.
This lounge itself is another great reminder for me. Josh Whitman, the foresight he had before I ever came here, he put in place to build the Smith Center here, which has been a building since I got here. We really didn't have a lot of things to brag about, and this building allowed us to do that. We use it for a photo shoot. We use it for interviews. I've had one-on-one lunches and dinners in here. Today it's obviously a setting for our TV show, but it's a building and especially a room that gets used on a daily basis.
Through the success and failure there, the trials and tribulations there, even just your first 2 years here at Illinois, how have you say that you've learned about that kind of getting to that point and getting that success that you talked about?
I think awareness is so big, right? Like, I'm 53 years old, but I've been a head coach 15 years. I've been in this business 30 years overall, and I think just the awareness of being able to understand things before they happen, being able to insert yourself in conversations that maybe when you were on the younger side or on the lack of experience, you didn't know how to get into those moments. There's so many times, and also for me as a head coach, I realize I learn from the youth, right? Not only the youth in our program for players, but new coaches, new faces, new experiences. We brought in 4 coaches from the outside world that had never been through our fall camp, right? And to hear and learn from them and vice versa, I think they gathered some information on what we do. It's a really fun atmosphere to be in every day.
2020, the season before you got here, there were 39 kids from Illinois on the roster. Now there's 60. How big is that And how big is that a reason for the success that you guys have seen just in 2 seasons?
You know, it's a great point. It's very intentional. But I believe in the state of Illinois. I believe in what they are. Have been able to come in here and recruit players from Illinois to come to places I've been at previously. But what we do on a daily basis every day starts with the recruitment of Illinois. One of the key factors of that, to be quite honest, was retaining and getting players that had left previously and to come back, right, to the state of Illinois. And that's still an ongoing process with the portal world we're in.
Talking about the roster a little bit, Luke Altmaier going to be QB1 this year, coming in from Ole Miss. He'll be the 4th starter in just the 3 seasons that you've been here. Do you think about the future with Luke's 3 years of eligibility, or is it just important just get a guy for that season?
You know, I think anytime you're not just a quarterback, when you have a player that is in the beginning stages of his career that starts, you're excited about the longevity of it, but really that isn't driving any decision we've made. We're going to put the best player in the best position to give the other 10 guys to have success. You know, there's a saying in football, right? Everybody thinks that coaches play their favorites. Well, they do. They play the ones that make you best. Luke just happens to play quarterback, but when we named him a starter, it was because we believe he gave us a chance to have success with the other 10 guys on the field.
You said at Big Ten Media Day that Illinois is home. What about the program? What about the place makes you think that and gets you excited about maybe where this program can be as well?
You know, I joke about it, but I mean it, right? I was born at Illini Hospital. It doesn't get any more Illini than that, right? I think when I left the college world and went to the NFL and I began to see from the outside world and think about where I'd want to go, that's when Illinois started to enter my mind about, hey, if this opportunity came, this is something I would pursue full go. And then to get here and be here, I think especially after last year when they began to have contract negotiations with me and talk about the future, it was an easy thing for me to just be like, hey, let's just go full go rodeo. We'll see where we're at, right? Like, you give us the resources I know we need to have success. Josh has been an unbelievable partner to walk in every day and go to work with. Chancellor Jones on campus, the university itself, the people, the community, the state. It's really just kind of a marriage made in heaven, and I like the way it's working.
All right, Bret, thanks so much. That's just a snippet of our whole conversation. Right now, you can watch the full 10-minute plus version on our website, YourIlliniNation.com. Stick with us because coming up after the break, there are plenty of Central Illinois players on the team this year. Not just on the team, they're also contributing. We have more from them coming up next.
The Big Ten about to look a whole lot different starting this time next year. Andy, the league will span from coast to coast with the additions of West Coast schools, UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington.
Yeah, of course, those two that you mentioned last just joining more recently after USC and UCLA were announced this time last year. Conference realignment, a big topic, and U of I Chancellor Robert Jones is at the center of it all. He's the chair of the Big Ten Council of Presidents and Chancellors, the decision makers for who gets into the league.
We spoke one-on-one with him at his office earlier this month about the ever-changing landscape of college sports.
If you're on the sideline with all of this, you will be less than you are today. You will be left behind. And so we are in a good position now strategically to be innovating as we should, given our preeminence as the Big Ten Conference, and also trying to contemplate what the NCAA and what intercollegiate athletics writ large is going to look like in 12, 24 months.
To watch the entire 20-plus minute conversation with Chancellor Jones, head to our website, WCIA.com.
From across the country to across the world, and Brice, several Illini took the trip of a lifetime this summer.
3 Illini stepped away from the field to give back, flying to Africa to serve several tribal communities. It's memories they'll never forget, opening their eyes to the world away from football.
Jason, our team chaplain, he came up to me during a lift and he's like, hey, you want to go to Africa, in May? And I was like, yeah, for sure.
It was a no-brainer decision for Illini tight end Tip Ryman to take a mission trip to Africa with his wife, Illinois basketball player Genesis Bryant, and his teammates wide receiver Isaiah Williams and linebacker Kenena Odeluga. The group went to Nairobi, Kenya in May, where they spent time meeting people and visiting the Maasai tribes.
Seeing their culture, seeing their way of life, seeing the way that they interact with each other and interact with people that they don't even know about. We're strangers to them. But the amount of love, the amount of hospitality was, something I've never experienced before.
Now, officially Maasai.
The group was immersed in African culture by dancing together, praying, or just having simple conversations.
I was trying to hold an image or be this football player, be this guy. I was just being Isaiah, and I enjoyed it. I had fun, and I was just embracing the African culture.
The Illini also gifted goats to the Maasai community as a way to give back.
Just being thankful for the little things, because them people didn't really have much, but they were thankful for what they had, and whatever they received, like, they were thankful.
We think we have some hard stuff, and they have steps beyond that.
Ryman, Odeluga, and Williams also grew closer with one another, a team bonding that went international.
You just take that to another level when you go to another country with these people, you know.
Early on, didn't really talk much. I didn't really know nothing about KO that much. He was just my teammate, honestly. And then we ended up being roommates. And then we ended up talking every single night, and we just grew a bond that's so strong, and it was just based off this trip.
Those small moments, you know, whether we're in the hotel room just talking, you know, just talking about our day, talking about life, talking about things that we're going through, you're able to really see the person for who they are.
The guys were there for a week. Bret Bielema said he's noticed the three have grown as leaders and even talked to the team about the experience. Andy?
Joined now by Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com. Back again for another season of the Sunday No Huddle, but we'll talk more about that later. We just heard that great story with a bunch of Illini, including Kenenna Odeluga, going over to Africa on a mission trip. Now talking about on the field, specifically with Kenenna in the defense. He's going to have a bigger opportunity this year with two linebackers that had a lot of time last year moving on, and that's going to be a big role in the defense this coming year.
Yeah, I think Calvin Hart moving on is a big, he's moving on because of spring ball and because Dylan Rosiak and Kenenna were ahead of him. And it'll be interesting, all these new faces, Bielema recruits that are moving up and moving into these starting roles.
The secondary losing a lot this year. What do you make of that group and the guys who are going to be tasked with coming in and trying to replace one of the better position groups in the country last year?
Yeah, and it's further hindered by Matt Bailey's injury, that he's out. Coaches have said at least until the Penn State game, if not beyond then. You have Taz, you have Xavier Scott, who really came on at the end of the year, and then you have question marks everywhere. So it's just, that's a function of how college football works, right? That every great program you can think of that has players go on to the NFL has this exact problem on the year.
What do you make of the offensive line, what they're returning versus what they're losing this coming season?
I'd say it's very similar to the year before of what they lost, and kind of have 2.5 starters back, maybe 3.5 this year. They've spent the last 2 Septembers kind of figuring out their line, and then once October and November arrive, they stick with that line. We saw that in 21, we saw that in 22, and I think that we're going to see that in 23, where they play with it a little in the non-conference, and then by the time Big Ten play gets here, settle on the rotation they want.
To watch our entire conversation, head to our website, then tune in every Sunday night for the Sunday No Huddle. Robert joins us to break down games and look ahead to the next week. Sunday nights at 10 right here on WCIA 3. You can also listen in our podcast feed, the 3-in-1 podcast. The Illini will have new jerseys this season. More on the new look straight ahead.
Plus, Jeremy Werner joins us in studio. We get his prediction for the Illini's record.
And several players from the WCIA 3 viewing area are not only on the team this season, but making a big impact. All that and more next.
The Illini will debut new uniforms this season, and if you're a jersey junkie like me, you have an opinion on how they look. I think they did okay, definitely an upgrade. Brice, your thoughts?
I like them. I think that the white crisps are always crisp. The white uniforms are always crisp. I like how they are keeping the blue top, orange bottom combo, but adding a little shoulder stripe is always a fun little addition. But 10 players from the WCIA 3 viewing area are on the Illinois roster this season, and several will make big impacts, most notably the Danville duo of offensive tackle Julian Pearl and kicker Caleb Griffin.
Rochester's Hank Beatty should be in the receiver rotation, along with a pair of Gibson City Melvin Sibley grads and defensive lineman Bryce Barnes, and running back Aiden Lawfrey. He's teaming up with Arthur Lovington, Atwood Hammonds, Caden Fagan in the backfield. Both guys looking for a role.
Just help the team in any way I can. I mean, what coach says, being tough, smart, dependable every day. Just be here, really focus, and just live your routine every day.
Whatever opportunity comes my way, I'm excited to, possibly snatch up or take advantage of. But really, it's just every day going out there, working hard, doing your job.
With more on what to expect from the Illini this season, here's Bret with Jeremy Werner.
Chatting with Jeremy Werner in studio here from Illini Inquirer. There's a lot of excitement, Jeremy, about this season, and that'll happen when you have an 8-5 team. Illinois is relevant again. How do you kind of sum up what they have been to get to this point and all the excitement for this year?
Yeah, Bret Bielema just brought a lot of competency to the program, right? I mean, all of a sudden you're competitive in every game, basically, that he's been a part of. A few exceptions in his first year here, but he's just brought a sustainable style of football back to Illinois. But now this is the big task, right? This is the time when Illinois football fans raise expectations. Only in the recent past, they've been let down the season after. Now it's about showing that you're not a flash in the pan.
So what are the keys to that? How do they do that is the big question.
Well, they had a great offseason, in my opinion. It's not just about adding transfers and quarterbacks. It's about retaining your talent and the ability to get Johnny Newton and Keith Randolph, Isaiah Adams, Julian Pearl, frankly, 4 guys who could be in the mix for NFL rosters right now, especially Johnny Newton and I think Isaiah Adams. To get those guys to come back for another year, I think shows a lot of buy-in from them because they could be cashing NFL checks right now.
All right, this first 3 games of the season, to me, this is where it all comes down to hey, is Illinois going to get off to a good start? If they're 1-2, if they lose at Kansas, if they lose to Penn State, what's a good number there for these first 3 games?
It's a tough September, but I think you can lose to any opponent if you don't bring it. But I think they can beat any opponent, too. That's what's going to make this kind of a nerve-wracking September, a nerve-wracking season. But I don't think it's going to make it exciting because I think the spectrum of what this team can do is probably between 5 and 10 wins.
So where do you have them at? I think Vegas has it at 6.5.
I would take the over. I think this team is going to win more games than it loses for a second year in a row. I picked 8-4. I have them in the Big Ten race in November. I think this is a big year for Illinois to show they can sustain success. That's why Bret Bielema was brought here, to beat Iowa, to beat Wisconsin, to beat Kansas State. I think this is a year they can show they can do it.
For even more with Jeremy, tune into the Your Illini Nation pregame show live 90 minutes before every game. We've got you covered as well. Streaming 3-in-1 podcast. We got all sorts of stuff coming up this year. Post-game press conference as well. For Andy and Bryce, I'm Bret. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.